It was because she had broken with Billy that Loretta had come visiting to Santa Clara. Billy could not understand. His sister had reported that she had walked on the floor and cried all night. Loretta had not slept all night either, while she had wept most of the night. Daisy knew this, because it was in her arms and the weeping had been done. And Daisy's husband, Captain Kit, knew too. The tears of Loretta and comforting by Daisy had lost the hints of sleep. Now Captain Kit did not like to lose sleep. Neither did he want Loretta to marry Billy, nor anybody else. It was Captain Kit's belief that Daisy needed the help of her younger sister in the household. But he did not say this aloud. Instead, he always insisted that Loretta was too young to think of marriage. So it was Captain Kitty's ideas that Loretta should be packed off on a visit to Mrs. Hemingway. There wouldn't be anybody else. Before Loretta had been at Santa Clara a week, she was convinced that Captain Kitty's ideas was a good one. In the first place, though Billy wouldn't believe that, she did not want to marry Billy. And in the second place, though Captain Kit wouldn't believe that, she did not want to leave Daisy. By the time Loretta had been at Santa Clara 2 weeks, she was absolutely certain that she did not want to marry Billy. But she was not sure about not wanting to leave Daisy. Not that she loved Daisy less, but that she had doubts. The day of Loretta's arrival, the New Blues plan began shaping itself in Mrs. Hemingway's brain. The second day, she remarked to Jack Hemingway, her husband, that Loretta was so innocent a young thing that were it not for her sweet carelessness, she would be positively stupid. In proof of which, Mrs. Hemingway told her husband several things that made her chuckle. By third day, Mrs. Hemingway's plan had taken recognizable form. Then it was that she composed a letter. On the envelope she wrote, Mr. Andrew Bashford, Annual Club, San Francisco. Dear Ned, the letter began. She had once been violently loved by him for 3 weeks in her premarital days, but she had converted herself to Jack Hemingway, who had prior claims and her hers as well. And Ned Bashford had philosophically not broken his heart over it. He merely added the experience to a large fund of similarly collected debt, out of which he manufactured philosophy. Artistically and temperamentally, he was a Greek, a tired Greek. He was fond of quoting from Nathan, in token that he, too, had passed through the long sickness that follows upon the ardent search for truth, that he too had imagined to experienced, too short, too profound, ever again too afflicted by the madness of youth in their love of truth, to worship appearance. He often quoted, to believe in forms, in tones, in words, in the whole Olympus of appearance. This particular excerpt he always concluded with, those Greeks were superficial. Those Greeks were superficial, out of profundity. He was a fairly young Greek, jaded and worn. Women were faithless and unveracious. He held, at such time, that he had relapsed and descended to premises from his vaunted high philosophical kind. He did not believe in the truth of women, but, faithful to his German master, he did not stop from them in aerial girls that violated their own truths. He was content to accept them as appearance and to make the best of it. He was superficial, out of profundity. Jake says to be sure to say to you, "Good swimming," Mrs. Hemingway wrote in his letter, and also to bring your fishing nets along. Mrs. Hemingway wrote another thing in the letter. She told him that at last she was prepared to exhibit to him an absolutely true, unsoiled, and innocent young woman, a more guileless, immaculate board of womanhood never blushed on the planet, was one of the several ways in which she pressed the endorsement. And to her husband, she said triumphantly, "If I don't marry Ned of this time," leaving unstated the terrible alternative that she lacked either vocabulary to express or imagination to convince. Contrary to all her forebodings, Loretta found that she was not unhappy at Santa Clara. True, Billy wrote to her every day, but his letter was less distressing than his presence. Also, the odor of being away from Daisy was not so severe as she accepted. For the first time in her life, she was not losing any pace in the place of Daisy's brilliant and mature personality. Under such favorable circumstances, Loretta came rapidly to the front, while Mrs. Hemingway modest and shamelessly retreated into the background. Loretta began to discover that she was not a pale orb shining by reflection. Quite unconsciously, she became a small center of things. When she was at piano, there was someone to turn the pages for her and to express preference for certain songs. When she dropped her handkerchief, there was someone to pick it up, and there was someone to accompany her in rambling and flower gardens. Also, she learned to cast a file in stew pots and below savage refuse, and how not to engage skills line and gas leaders with the shrubbery. Jack Hemingway did not care to teach beginners, and fished much by himself, or not at all, that giving Edward first ample time in which to consider Loretta as an appearance. As such, she was all that his philosophy demanded. Her blue eyes had the direct gaze of a body, and out of his profundity he delighted in them and forbore to shudder at the duplicity his philosophy bade him to believe lacquer in their depends. She had the grace of slender flower, the fidelity of color and the line of fine china, in all of which he pleasured greatly. Without thought of the life force plan. Palpitating beneath, without thought of the life force palpitating beneath, and in spite of Bernarshaw, in whom he believed. Loretta burgeoned. She swiftly developed a personality. She discovered the will of her own and wishes of her own that were not everlasting, entwined with the will and the wishes of Daisy. She discovered a will of her own and wishes of her own that were not everlasting, entwined with the will and the wishes of Daisy. She was petted by Jack Hemingway, spoiled by Alice Hemingway, and devoted aunted by Ned Bashford. They encouraged her wishing and laughed at her flaws, while she developed the pretty little genius that are latent in a pretty and delicate women. Her environment acted as soporific upon her ancient desire always to live with Daisy. The desire no longer prodded her as in the days of her companionship with Billy. The more she saw of Billy, the more certain he had been that she could not live away from Daisy. The more she saw of Ned Bashford, the more she forgot to pressing need of Daisy. Ned Bashford likewise did the same forgetting. He confused superficially with profundity, and entailed appearance with reality until he accounted the one. Loretta was different from other women. There was no masquerade about her. She was real. He said as much to Mrs. Hemingway, and more, who agreed with him and at the same time caught her husband Alice dropping down from the moment in an unmistakable wink. It was the time that Loretta received a letter from Billy that was somewhat different from his others. In the main, like all his letters, it was perfect. In the main, like all his letters, it was past logic. It was a long recite of symptoms and sufferings, his nervousness, his sleeplessness, and the state of his hurt. Then followed reproaches, such as she had never made before. They were sharp enough to make her weep, and true enough to put tragedy into her face. This tragedy he carried down to breakfast table. It made Jack and Mrs. Hemingway speculative, and it worried Ned. They glanced to him for examination. They glanced to him for explanation, but he shook his head. "I'll find out tonight," Mrs. Hemingway said to her husband. But Ned called Loretta in the afternoon in the big living room. She tried to turn away. He caught her hands, and she faced him with wet lashes and trembling lips. He looked at her, silently and kindly. The lashes grew wetter. Dear, don't cry, little one," she said soothingly. Dear, don't cry, little one," he said soothingly. He put his arm protectingly around his shoulder. He put his arm protectingly around her shoulder, and to his shoulder, like an entire child. She turned her face. He chilled in ways unusual for a Greek who has recovered from the lung sickness. "Oh, Ned," she sobbed on her shoulder. "If you know how weak I am." He smiled indulgently and breathed in a great breeze freighted. He smiled indulgently and breathed in a great breeze freighted with the fragrance of her hair. He thought of his word, experience of women, and drew another long breath. There seemed to emanate from her the perfect sweetness of a child. The aroma of a white soul was the way he pressed to himself. Then he noticed that her sobs were increasing. "What's the matter, little one?" he asked the "What's the matter, little one?" he asked peasantly and almost paternally. "What's the matter, little one?" he asked peasantly and almost paternally. Has Jack been bullying you? Or has your dearly beloved sister fought you right?" She did not answer, and he felt that he really must kiss her hair, that he could not be responsible if the situation continued much longer. "Tell me," he said gently, "and we'll see Tell me," he said gently, "and we'll see what I can do." "I can't. You will despise me. Oh, Ned, I'm so ashamed." He laughed, incredulous, and lightly touched her hair with his lips, so lightly that he did not know. "Dear little one, let us forget all about it. Whatever it is, I want you to tell how I love." She uttered a sharp cry that was all delight, and then moaned, "Too late!" "Too late?" he echoed in surprise. "Oh, why did I? She was moaning. He was aware of the sweet chill at his heart. "What?" he asked. "Oh, Billy, I'm such a wicked woman, Ned. I know you will never speak to me again. This Billy," he began haltingly. "He is your brother?" "No, I don't know. I was so young. I could not help it. Oh, I should go mad. It was then that Loretta felt his shoulder and encircling arm become limp. He drew away from her gently, and gently he disposed her in a big chair, where she buried her face and sobbed afresh. He twisted his mustache fiercely, then drew up another chair and sat down. I do not understand," he said. "I'm so unhappy," she wailed. "Why unhappy?" "Because he wants to me marry him." His face cleared on the instant, and he placed a hand smoothing on hers. "That should not make a girl unhappy," he remarked sagely, "because you don't love him in no reason. Of course, you don't love him?" Loretta shook her hand and shoulders in a vigorous negative. "What?" Bashford wanted to make sure. "No," she asserted explosively. No, she asked it exclusively. I don't love Billy. I don't want to love Billy. Because you don't love him, Marford resumed with confidence. Because you don't love him, Marford resumed with confidence. It was because you don't love him, Marford resumed with confidence. It's no reason that you should be unhappy just because he is proposed to you. She sobbed again, and from the midst of her sob she cried, That's the trouble. I wish I did love him. Oh, I wish I were dead. Now, my dear children, you're worrying yourself over Charles. His other hand crossed over after its mate and rested on hers. Women do it every day because you have changed your mind or did not know your mind, because you have, to use an unnecessarily harsh word, gentleman, jetted. She had raised her head and was looking at him with tail-demeaned eyes. Oh, Ned, if that were all? He asked in a hollow voice, while his hand slowly retreated hers. He was about to speak further, then remained silent. But I don't want to marry him. Loretta broke forth protestingly. Then I shouldn't, he consoled. But I ought to marry him. Ought to marry him? She nodded. That is a strong word. I knew it is. She acquiesced while she strove to control her trembling lips. Then she spoke more calmly. I'm a wicked woman, and a terribly wicked woman. No one knows how wicked I am, except Billy. There was a push. Ned Professor's face was grave, and he looked quickly at Loretta. Billy knows? He asked finally. A reluctant hand nod and the flame cheeks was the reply. He debated with himself a while, seeming like a driver, to be preparing himself for the plunge. Tell me about it, he spoke very firmly. You must tell me all of it. And will you ever forgive me? She asked in a faint, small voice. He hesitated, drew a long breath, and made the plunge. Yes, he said desperately. I'll forgive you. Go ahead. There was no one to tell me, she began. We were with each other so much. I did not know anything of the world. Then she paused to meditate. Beresford was beating his lip impatiently. If I had only known. She paused again. Yes, go on, he urged. We were together almost every evening. Billy? He demanded, with a swiftness that startled her. Yes, of course, Billy. We were with each other so much. If I had only known. There was no one to tell me. I was so young. Her lips parted as though to speak further, and she regarded him anxiously. Her lips parted as though to speak further, and she began. Her lips parted as though to speak further, and she regarded him anxiously. The circular, with the explosion, not a with the explosion, not Bradford, with the explosion, not Bradford was on his feet, no longer a tired Greek, but a violent, angry young man. Billy is not a squaw. He is a good man, Loretta defended with a firmness that surprised Bradford. I suppose you will be telling me the next that it was all your fault, he said sarcastically. She nodded. What? He shouted. It was all my fault, she said steadily. I should never have let him. It was too plain. Bradford caused from his pacing up and down, and when he spoke his voice was resigned. All right, he said. I don't blame you in the least, Loretta, and you will have been very honest. But Billy is right, and you're wrong. You must get married. To Billy? She asked in a thin, faraway voice. Yes, to Billy. I'll see to it. Where does he live? I make him. But I don't want to marry Billy, she cried out in alarm. Oh, Ned, you won't do that. I sure, she answered sternly. You must, and Billy must. Do you understand? Loretta buried her face in the contents chair back and broke into a passionate storm of sobs. All that Bradford could make out of at first, as he listened, was, But I don't want to leave Daisy. I don't want to leave Daisy. He paced the girl dreamily back and forth, then stopped cautiously. He paced dreamily back and forth, and stopped crucially to listen. How was I to know? Oh. Loretta was crying. He didn't tell me. Nobody else never kissed me. I never dreamed a kiss could be so terrible. Until he wrote to me. I only got the letter this morning. His face brightened. It seemed as though the light was turned on him. Is that what you are crying about? Is that what you are crying about? No. He's hurt sick. Then what are you crying about? He asked in a hopeless voice. Because you said I had to marry Billy, and I don't want to marry Billy. I don't want to leave Daisy. I don't know what I want. I wish I were dead. He nerved himself for another effort. Now, look here, Loretta. Be sensible. What is it about the cases? You haven't told me everything. I don't want to tell you everything. She looked at him, basking in the silence that fell. Must I? She cowered finally. You must, he said imperatively. You must tell me everything. Well, then, must I? You must. I will. She began fluttering, then blurted out. I let him, and he kissed me. Go on. Bradford commented desperately. That's all, she answered. All? There was a vast ingratitude in his voice, or in her voice was intelligence no less vast. I mean, nothing worse. He was overwhelmingly aware of his own awkwardness. I mean, nothing worse. He was unwillingly aware of his own awkwardness. Worse? She was frankly puzzled. As though there could be, Billy said. When did he say it? Bashford demanded abruptly. In his letter I got this morning, Billy said that our kids were terrible if I didn't get married. Bashford's head was swimming. What else did Billy say? He asked. He said that when a woman allowed a man to kiss her, she always married him. That it was terrible if she didn't. It was the custom, he said. And I say it is a bad, wicked custom. And I don't like it. I knew I'm terrible. She added defiantly. But I can't help it. Bashford manly brought out a cigarette. Do you mind if I smoke? He asked, as he struck a match. Then he came to himself. I beg your pardon, he cried, lighting away match and a cigarette. I don't want to smoke. I didn't mean that at all. What I mean is, he bent over Loretta, caught her hand in his, then sat on the arm of the chair and softly put one arm around her. Loretta, I'm a fool. I mean it. And I mean something more. I want you to be my wife. He waited anxiously in the pause that followed. You may answer me, he urged. I will, if... Yes, go. If what? If I don't have to marry Billy. Oh, you can't marry both of us, he almost shouted. And it is the custom, what Billy said. No, it isn't the custom. Now, Loretta, will you marry me? Don't be angry with me, she put it demurely. He guided her into his arms and kissed her. I wish it were the custom, she said in a faint voice from the midst of the embers. Because then I'd have to marry you. That, dear, wouldn't I?